to other communities. I've gone to Rotary clubs with it. I went to Nashville, Tennessee with it, with the,
Wow.
at talking to the big wig, like foam companies and how they need to get involved in this process, So kind of, the presentation changes based on what information and what the message is that I'm trying to send out.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. Excellent.
yeah.
But it sounds like, you're the first in New Hampshire, right? This is the first initiative here in New Hampshire doing
Yes, yeah.
work.
Right now, the only one, but pretty soon that'll change. So,
Okay. Well, that's good to know. And I'm sure you'll talk a little bit more about that
yeah.
as well.
Hmm. Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you to the group that's already joined us. We'll wait a few more minutes before we get started. So I think this is going to be a very interesting program today. So just relax for the next couple minutes and we'll get started right at noon. So welcome everybody and thank you for joining us. I'm just going to sign in a few more people as we wait for everybody to join. We had about 40 people sign up for this program today. So thank you all for joining us. I am going to, again, just sign in a few more people as they're joining us, but I want to welcome everybody. My name is Barbara Richter. I'm the Executive Director at the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. And NHACC is a nonprofit organization working to support conservation commissions so that they can be successful in protecting their local natural resources. And our program today is on foam recycling. So we're going to learn more about this initiative to collect and densify polystyrene foam, which is definitely a new effort here in New Hampshire. And before we begin, just a few quick reminders. This program is being recorded, and you are welcome to share this recording with other Conservation Commission members. I will be sending the link out tomorrow with more resources as well. We do invite you to ask questions, but during the program, I think it's best to just put your questions in the chat box at the bottom or raise your hand. And at the end of the program, we'll have plenty of time to answer some questions and maybe get a dialogue going. So I'd like to welcome our guest speaker today is Megan Theriault from the Gilford Public Works. She's the Gilford Public Works Director. And Megan was named the 2024 New Hampshire Public Works Leader of the Year. She holds a BS in civil engineering from the University of New Hampshire and has extensive experience in civil engineering, stormwater management, and municipal public works. So now I would like to welcome Megan to the program to tell us more about this really interesting initiative.
Good morning or afternoon now, right? Thank you. All right, so we'll jump right into things. So today I'm here to talk about the foam recycling that we're doing here in Gilford and really all across the state. And it really is a regional collaboration. And, my goal is to kind of give you an overview of what the program is, to give you information so that then you can go to your communities and start the conversation and figure out how can we do something in our community to be a part of, this initiative, which is very much needed. So let's see if I just wanna, here we go. Okay, does that go into the next one now? All right. Sorry, I'm managing multiple screens here, trying to. Okay. So back in 2022, I joined a group called the Foam Recycling Action Group. And it was really just New Hampshire Recycles. You spoke to Reagan Bissonette last 2 weeks ago. They kind of were looking for a community who was interested in maybe piloting this. And so we started a group. It was a combination of Rotary clubs, a couple municipalities, nonprofit groups, and the company called Foam Cycle. And we pretty much just started the conversation on, what we're trying to do here and how we can do it. So the goals of our group were obviously to reduce foam in landfills and plastic pollution. We were looking to save money on hauling costs. This foam is absolutely wasting space in these trailers, and then it is definitely wasting space in the landfills. And then the hope was that we'd be able to generate some revenue through recycling, like other, recycling commodities. So the other goal of our group is to align with the DES solid waste management plan, which, this is kind of the list of, from least preferred to most preferred of, landfilling, which we're trying to get away from incineration. And we're looking at, this program is recycling and reuse of items is what we're trying to do. So we're up near the top of, kind of what they're looking for, which is maximizing diversion and reducing, the quantity of waste generated. So we're all aware of the problem. So polystyrene is a material that is 100% recyclable, and it has been for, at least the over 20 years that I've been in the industry, and it has driven me crazy to see that symbol on the back, the number 6 recycling symbol, and to be constantly told that no, it is not recyclable. So the material is being thrown away in everybody's trash, almost in every town. And the reason is it's too bulky of an item to transport, like the picture on the left. That is totally, cost prohibitive to be transporting lightweight foam in that manner. So the only solution is to densify the foam down and then make it more feasible to transport it. So just to give you a picture of how much it can densify, it's a 90-to-1 reduction, okay? So it takes 2 to 3 of these, what we call super sacks bags, to make one 50-pound ingot. That's what we call the densified material, gets pressed into a small block. They typically weigh about 50 pounds. And like I said, it takes 3 of those bags to densify down into one of those ingots over there. So now we have a new problem. So we know the problem, we know the solution, but now how do we take this solution and make it happen across, New England at a larger scale? So the idea that we came up with is a regional hub and spoke situation. So a hub, which is what Gilford is where a densifying unit resides. And the spokes are locations all across the state that collect foam in numerous different ways, which we will talk about. So the picture on the right is showing you kind of our vision of how these hubs would be spread across, New Hampshire. So right near the center is our hub there. And we have found that we kind of look at a 50-mile radius. And the reason we do that is we found that when very early collection events were held, people were driving up to 50 miles to drop off their foam to a foam collection event. So we thought this was a reasonable distance for communities to travel to bring us their foam. The marker down on the right-hand side is Exeter. That is another hub that is finally coming online after a few years, which is exciting. And then the hub in the top right is actually in Vermont. And so that is a hub for a specific solid waste district that supports over 20 towns. But you can see the other blue and black hubs is where we hope to have, in those general areas. We're looking for a western hub, a southern hub, northern hub. And the hope is that with numerous hubs, we can support foam recycling statewide. So the foam cycle setup is a plug and play system. We became a pilot program to start. So Foam Cycle donated the system to us to get going. So they dropped it off. All we had to do was pay for the electrical to hook it up to get started. And they worked with us over the next year to get all the funding I needed for the system. And this system densifies about 200 pounds an hour. And it's, as you can see, self-contained. It's, a container that has the densifying unit, which is the tan unit. And then on the right-hand side, it shows a bag in it. But really, we store our densified ingots in there until we're ready to then put it on a pallet. You can also choose to get these standalone recycling bins, which people are very used to seeing. You've got your clothing bins, your book bins, things like that. So you can purchase these as well. The system itself costs about $90,000, and the bins are about $3,000 a piece, just to give you an idea of cost. And we received over $100,000 in grants for this program. So the spoke collections that I talked about is how the different communities are going to collect foam. And there's 3 different ways that communities are currently doing this. The first one is the collection bins that I just talked to you about. Some towns, through either their own funding or through Rotary that they've partnered with, have purchased some of these bins. And they have these bins at their, say, transfer station. And what they do is they collect the foam in this bin, and then they store it aside in bags, and then they deliver the bags to us on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis, whatever works for them. So about 20% of our communities are collecting in this manner. And as I said, it's about $3,000 for one bin. We have 2 of these bins, as you can see in the top left corner. We have 2 bins located in a public space, which is our DPW. And that is so that people can drop off 24/7. So if at 8 o'clock at night you want to drop off your foam, you can. And this allows a public drop off. Some people would ask me the question, well, do you get a lot of contamination? And the answer is no, we really don't. The people who are going out of their way to locate my public drop off are trying to do things right, and they are following the rules. If I stuck these bins over at a Walmart parking lot, yes, they would probably be full of all kinds of things. Okay, so where you place them is obviously important. I also have 2 of these bins located at my transfer station as well for my residents using the facility. And that was our choice, just to get 4 bins to get started, but we didn't need to do that. But I'm trying to make my program open to the public. And as you know, I can't let anyone come to my transfer station because you have to have a sticker and be a resident. So this way it allows a public drop-off location for small collections from maybe someone who lives 2 towns over. They want to collect their stuff and drop it off. So the next one is through collection events. So about 30% of our communities are doing this. So these are large events that are 1 to 4 times a year, and communities hold these at either their own transfer station or they hold them in a public parking lot, like a school parking lot or something like that. And what they do is they have to get a lot of volunteers from Rotary clubs or nonprofits in their town. And what most of them are doing is holding like a 1-day, 4-hour event where they collect from communities. And all the volunteers are packing the bags, and then they deliver them to us in U-Haul trailers, and they drop them off to us where we then process all of this foam. So the Upper Valley, Lebanon, Hanover, that area just had an event last week, and their events are huge, and they're only 4 hours long. They collected 80 super sacks of material, which is the biggest that we get from any other collection event, obviously. So, and they have up to 20 plus communities coming to their public collection event. So you can see the reach is very wide, because way over on the western side of the state, they are holding an event that is reaching out to 20 towns in their area. So the reach of just the Gilford hub is quite large. So the third way that communities are collecting, which is about 50% of our communities, because this is really the cheapest option for collection, is right at your transfer station. So if you can get your public works group on board and you get them to purchase these bags, they're very reasonable cost. I can't remember if they're like $30 a piece or something like that. They're very reasonable. And you can purchase, 10 of these bags or something like that, and you collect your foam, and then they drop it off to us on a weekly basis. So this is what nearby towns are doing, like Alton, Molten Borough is doing this. The whole Plymouth area, the Rotary clubs are working with the Plymouth communities. They support several communities up there. So a lot of communities bring to us on a regular basis in this manner, which is working out great for them. So one of the big things we had to do when we got this whole program started was educating the public. And we have a huge amount of information available to people. And a lot of that is on the website that you'll see on my last slide and that I shared with Barbara, which is our Recycle Right website. So we have a lot of our flyers up there. We have example social media posts, poster boards that you can make, anything like that. So if you were a community that wanted to get started, we can give you these documents, we can customize them for your town. We try and help everybody out because there's no sense in recreating the wheel. We can, certainly just give you this stuff or help you edit it to get going. But there's a lot of public information available on our website that, you can look at. The whole goal was to tell everybody what is and isn't allowed, because we're trying to keep the recycling stream clean. So in New Hampshire, we are allowed to collect food service foam, where I believe in Vermont there is a food service foam ban. So I don't believe, are collecting that, but we are here. And so any foam that has the number 6 symbol and is a snappable foam, like, if it's a bendable foam, which you'll see in the next slide, that's the stuff we don't want. But the color doesn't matter. And obviously, yes, it should be clean. And I can tell you that that has not been an issue. The only contamination we see is typically when people leave labels and tape on the foam. So we try and take that off. And we prefer that the volunteers bring us the foam, take it off before it gets to us, because it's just one less step for us. But I would say that's really, we do not get food service foam with residual food on it. That has not been a problem. So this is kind of a snapshot of some of the things that we take. And here's a snapshot of some of the things that we do not take. So as you can see, there's a lot of items that are the squishy, flexible foam. So we do not take those items. We do not take packing peanuts. And a lot of people ask why. The majority of packing peanuts, if you didn't know, are actually cornstarch. And so often when you get a packing peanut, if you run it under the water and it dissolves, then you know it's cornstarch. So yes, there are still some polystyrene peanuts out there, but if we allowed peanuts to be dropped off, we would get a mix of the cornstarch and the polystyrene. And because they're so small, that would be we would not be able to separate it from our processing. So we say no packing peanuts at all. We don't take the foam insulation board because it often has fire retardant stuff in it. So we can't take that. And then again, all the squishy types of foam, anything heavily contaminated, obviously we don't want. And probably the bottom picture, the second one in on the bottom, the white, very thin kind of ribbed foam, that is something that often covers like electronics. I can tell you that is probably the most common contaminant we get, that people see it, they think it's foam, they give it to us, but we have to take it out because it's not the right kind of polystyrene for the machine. So as I mentioned earlier, the cost of the system is approximately $90,000. We chose to buy several used shipping containers to store these white bags that you see. So we have purchased over 200 bags, and we did that because we are sharing them with communities, such as the Hannaford collection needed 80 bags. And let's say community A has 10 bags and community B has 20 bags. So we have kind of 200 in the rotation that we loan out to everybody, and it takes up a lot of room. So we have a container that holds all of those bags. We also worked with Lakes Region Planning Commission. They helped us to get the grant actually. So we received over $113,000 in funding, which covered all of our costs. I was able to get some early grants, which was from, small community grants from Gilford Community Church and Charitable Foundation. I was also able to easily obtain a $50,000 grant from the Foam Packaging Institute. I believe that is I don't know what the right word is, compilation of bigwig kind of foam companies who make the foam, and they put money away and into this group that then supports funding recycling and initiatives like this. So that was a very easy grant to obtain, which was nice. The other large grant I got, NBRC, was a lot more complicated, and I needed the help of Lakes Region Planning Commission to do that, but we did receive it, which was great. So we had no town funding that had to go into the initial setup costs. So cost offsetting. So like any recycling commodity, right? People always say, oh, does it pay for itself? None of these things really, no recycling commodity pays for itself. It is a cost offsetting. So instead of taking cardboard, tin, all these items and putting them in the trash and spending the amount of money that you do for trash, instead you are recycling them and you are making a small revenue off of them. The best recycling commodity right now is aluminum cans. And the next best one we have is actually polystyrene, the densified ingots. So we assumed we were going to make about 7,500 a year, but I just shipped out a load after 10 months and that was 10,000. So we're doing a little better than we thought, which is great. We also saved $5,000 in hauling a year. So and what I mean by that is envision the large polystyrene packing foam that I showed you, the big bulky stuff. If that was being dumped off by a resident into the trash bin then compacts into a large trailer, and you can't compact polystyrene down. So what happens is it wastes space in the trailer, and we found out very quickly when we removed foam from our waste stream, we were able to pack in more municipal solid waste, so more household trash. And our trailers went out 1.2 tons heavier. So that resulted in about $5,000 of hauling savings a year. So, we're netting about $15,000 a year in the program right now. So a lot of people want to know what happens after you send this material to be recycled. So you saw that we densified it down like the upper left-hand picture. That is what a densified ingot looks like. Then when we sell it to a company, the company we're working with is called Suprema. They're up in Canada, and they melt it down again and they turn it into beads. And then they put it in their product, which is the upper right-hand picture, which is a 70% recycled content insulation panel. So they are allowed to, use 70% content of what we give them, or 70% of the content to make the product, so only 30% raw materials. And so that's the company we've been working with. They will take their insulation board back, but they process it in a different unit. So if we end up seeing a Suprema insulation board come through, they said you wouldn't put it through the system, but you'd stockpile it separately. And when they pick up the densified ingots, they could also take the foam insulation board back because they can completely recycle it back into their product again. The other products that could be made are things like decking, picture frames, molding. Those are some other examples of reuses for the material. So with one foam densifier in Gilford, we are supporting 27 communities right now. And one of those, or let's say not one, Hannaford, Lebanon, there's like 3 or 4 Upper Valley communities. So of these 3-4 communities on this list, when they hold their events, they are reaching out to 20 to 25 more communities. So I would say our reach is probably about 50 communities or so right now, if that makes sense. So, I have communities on my list who are the contacts for the people dropping foam off to us. But for the Upper Valley, they are holding a public event where they are doing surveys, kind of like household hazardous waste for everybody who comes in. And they have found that they have over 20 communities coming to them from up to 50 miles away. And just so you know, I had to permit my system through DES separately than my regular recycle center. And that was a pretty easy process. And this foam recycling center is permitted so that it can accept foam from anywhere, where my solid waste center is permitted to only accept from Gilford residents. So they're permitted in different ways. So here's kind of a map that kind of shows you the different communities that are involved. So you can see there's like 14 communities collecting regularly, either at their transfer stations or at a drop-off bin. The other communities that you see are holding collection events. And so over on the left-hand side, the Upper Valley, you can see there's three green dots. Those are the communities that rotate and hold event. They each hold an event once a year. So they're holding 3 events a year. And those gray dots around it are the communities, many of the communities that come to them with numerous people. So I just picked the communities that had the most participation in their events. I also mentioned to you the red star at the top left there is the Northeast Kingdom Solid Waste Management District densifier, and they support about 20 communities or so up there. And so I just kind of showed you, the range of communities that one densifier is supporting. So we're really hoping when the Exeter system comes online on the seacoast that we will start to see a lot of communities participating over in that area. So it'll be much more reasonable for them to, transport over to Exeter. So in the 3 years that we've been running the program, we've collected over 61,000 pounds of foam. And every year it keeps increasing. So it's hard to really say what our normal annual average is because, the first year it was minimal. The second year it doubled. The third year it doubled. And, so we just keep going up. But that is numbers through August. So that doesn't include the most recent drop off from the Upper Valley. But that amount of foam is equal to about 175 40-yard containers. So if you can envision 175 40-yard containers lined up, and all of that material has been diverted from landfills, which I think is pretty amazing, which is about 7,000 cubic yards of material. So as I mentioned, Exeter is going to be the second New Hampshire hub that is going to be coming online late this year. Also, the picture you see right there is a Connecticut hub. So I've been doing presentations for quite some time, and I gave this presentation back to the New England APWA maybe last summer, and a community in Connecticut was very interested in doing this. And they were able to kind of jump right on and get the grant that I had mentioned to you, and they were able to get their system up and running. So there is unlimited potential for growth here, which is awesome. We showed the map earlier of kind of the vision of the hubs across the state. And that is kind of where we are right now. We are trying to find other communities to become a hub. Because as much as I want to support the entire state at, out of my facility, it's really not feasible. If every setup supported, let's say, whatever it is, 20 to 40 communities, that is much more reasonable for all of us. And so that's kind of where my focus has been now. So that's definitely where I'm looking for help, is trying to find a community that's willing to step up and have one of these, in their town. And I am more than happy to come talk specifically with any town. So let's say you start a conversation in your town, and your public works director is interested, but they want to know more, or your board of selectmen or whoever. I'm more than happy to come and give a presentation on a little more of the details about the funding and what's involved and the staffing involved in having one of these systems. So anyway, so that's kind of the whole program in a nutshell. Like, I have other information, but I didn't want to get into too much of the weeds. I wanted to leave plenty of time for you guys to kind of ask questions and whatnot. Those are QR codes that kind of bring you to the 3 different places where I put a lot of information. The Recycle Right webpage is where you're going to find all of the foam information. In the Gilford DPW is just our website. And then the Facebook page is where I also post a lot of stuff. So that's kind of the 3 main places where I'm putting information out. But I don't know if we want to open up to questions, or I can, get into any more details that you guys are interested in.
There are a couple questions in the chat. Could you give us the name of the grants again?
Yeah, so the first grant I got is from the Foam Packaging Institute. So FPI, and that was a $50,000 grant. Let me stop sharing my screen too. Stop share. Okay. And then the second grant I got, which was much more tedious, it was a federal grant, is called NBRC. I believe it is Northern Borders Regional Commission Grant. So that was pretty tedious to do, you know, but Lakes Region Planning was great, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without them. Obviously, I gave them all the info, but they dealt with all the, you know, requirements of the grant, and we sat down and went back and forth and submitted that. So, you know, we were able to do it, and it was worth doing for sure. But you know, some grants are easier than others to deal with, but we all know that.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. Sometimes grants can be a lot of work for sure.
Yep.
There was a question about a sustainability committee. And Hudson has a sustainability committee. I know a lot of towns now have
Mhm.
sustainability committees. Are you working with committees on sustainability, or do you often have you said you mentioned Rotary, but are
Yeah,
there?
so no, absolutely. I can let me just pull up for myself. So I have a list of kind of all the people that I have been working with. And let me just pull up. I know that some are called sustainable committees, and I could tell you like which ones they are. But yes, Rotary clubs is one example. But there are numerous groups that kind of get this initiative going. Solid waste. Give me 1 second. Foam cycling and regional foam program. Oops, wrong one. R. Just closed it. Solid waste. Regional program revised. Okay, so looking here. So I've got waste management committees, energy committees, another energy committee, waste recycling group, Sustainable Hanover, Climate Action Steering Team in Hartford, Hawkinton Solid Waste Committee, Hudson Sustainability Committees on my list. So that one was here. I had talked to a Debbie Putnam, interested in program, and Conservation Commission from Laconia, Sustainable Lebanon, Rotary clubs. You know, one of the things, and it kind of goes on, there's a bunch down here. Like I've got a very, very long list of groups. So one of the things I would encourage people to do is we hold monthly foam recycling meetings. And if you're interested, that foam recycling action group. And what we do is we pretty much support people in any way we can. So we give updates to what's going on, upcoming collection events, and then we encourage any new towns to jump in on any random month to ask questions, to bring someone else to the table, like a selectman or a DPW director, whatever. And really, it's a platform to ask questions. And you've got all the people involved for the last 3 years who have been running events, doing the grants, all the things. So it's a great source of information and great place to ask lots of detailed questions and get more into the weeds on everything. So we do that monthly. And if people were interested in that, you could just email me directly and I can get you on our kind of email list to let you know when the monthly meetings are so that you could jump on if you'd like.
That's great, and I'll mention that in the follow-up email
Okay.
as well. So we have Sherry and then Evie also has a question, but Sherry, go ahead.
Okay. Um, Two things. One, I want to make a plug for our Styrofoam Collection Day, which we've set for January 17th in Nashua. And this time it's going to be at a more of a public location. So we will be able to take styrofoam from other communities, not just Nashua. So if anybody wants any information, I can put my contact information in the chat. But my question, Megan, is we're now at the point where we want to get the message out. And that's, that's really hard. Do you have any suggestions from your experience on what kind of groups we should reach out to. We have a couple of ideas, but I just want to kind of get on everybody's email list so that they have a group of people to send out to, so people can start saving their styrofoam now.
So I think, for me, I'm kind of a proponent of the social media. It's a good reach to get out there. So if you create graphics or just some information about, your event, and you put it out on like the communities around Nashua. So not only a community page for Nashua, but there's got to be community pages for the communities around you. So I would push out information through social media. You could potentially get an ad on the radio about it. You could work with any local businesses. In particular, banks often are helpful with this. I know in Meredith, the bank post it. But if you have an upcoming save the date foam collection, sometimes banks or other places will put it on their message board. So like a school sometimes. So any kind of community message boards that are seen by a lot of people, that's a great way to, like pick a weekend and just get asked to put save the date foam collection, or go here for more info. So the other thing you can do is I call it local access TV. So most communities have a local access TV station. So for the people who are not on social media, they may be on something like the local access TV, watching, whatever, community meetings, things like that. You could get a rolling ad on that as well. The other option is to put it in the newspaper. Similar to your HHW, how do you get your HHW for the communities that do that, your Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day? How do you get that information out? Similar ways is how you get this out. Another option, I'm a proponent of message boards, like the A-frame message board. And I know you can get message boards through New Hampshire the Beautiful. I believe they have a program that you can get message boards paid for. And it's very easy to get corrugated plastic 2x3 colorful signs, which again, I have all of this stuff already created. We would just give it to you and you can just change the dates and the name and stuff like that. And you would put it on an A-frame and you would pick an area that is a very busy area that people drive through. And you would put these A-frames and you can move them around your community so that you're getting the message out and about. I have found that A-frames are a great way to spread information in a community. And like I said, you can move it. You can put the A-frame at the entrance to your town hall. You can put it at the entrance to your solid waste center. Put it, over by a commercial area that's busy, things like that. So that would be kind of my other suggestion. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Evie Nathan also had a question, and then we'll get to Cheryl.
Yeah, hi. We have in our town, because our recycler or our trash pickup doesn't recycle or pick up glass and cardboard. Actually, they take cardboard, but the town makes money with cardboard. So we have a separate collection every other week, the same week as we do our recycling for cardboard and glass at our DPW area. It's become very popular and a lot of people go. So I'm thinking perhaps we could add a container for styrofoam to that. We wouldn't need to have the $3,000 container, would we? We could just
No. I mean,
bags.
you can do it any way you want. Yep. For us, it was just it was part of the package that we got. So I always mention it, but no, you certainly don't need it. You can use any container. You don't even need a container, depending on your facility. Like I said, Molten Borough and Meredith, they just have like a window that people drop foam into a net, and then the workers take it and place it into the bags.
Right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't have an indoor facility there. So
Okay.
that was another question is, I'm excited to hear that Exeter is going to become a hub because that's only 10 minutes from us.
Great.
So assumably we could get our stuff down to Exeter, but we'd have to coordinate with them. Is there any permitting involved from our town end?
You know, I guess you would have to, it would be pretty minimal. All it would be if you were gonna do it, Exeter would have to do the permitting. For any community participating, it's possible you just have to do a, oh gosh, what's it called? It's like a PBN. It's updating like your permit by notification, where I believe you would just have to look at the words in your current permit and you might have to update it to say you're collecting foam. So if your permit for your solid waste center says we collect A, B, C, D, E, and foam is not listed, you may just need to update it and say we're collecting foam as well. But they've been very good about that, and it's a very simple process to do that. And it was actually pretty simple to even do what I had to do. So it's definitely worth checking your permit. You're having your public works check their permit. And when in doubt, you just ask, email DES, but don't be scared about that because I'm telling you, it's a very simple process to just change your permit by notification. So.
Okay, last question is the stuff, if it's in the bags, they don't close. So I assume you have to cover it and keep it dry so rain doesn't get in there.
Preferably, yes, because you don't want to be, these bags, the material of the bags are like a Tyvek material is what I correlated to. So I don't think they drain. So I'm thinking the water would sit inside them, which you don't want. So yes, they should be covered with just like a tarp. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you were doing, so depending on when you start collecting, I would definitely encourage you to join our foam recycling meetings so that you can get some kind of the nitty gritty details on if you're going to collect what, maybe you start your collection and you bring to us for now, but then as soon as Exeter's online, you can bring to them. But you can kind of get going and learn the ins and outs of what's involved, so you're welcome to do that, or you just wait until Exeter's online, which is fine. But we would kind of go over some of the things with you, such as like a fine detail is like when you get coolers, we were mentioning trying to take the tape off the coolers is helpful. Snapping the cooler in half is actually very helpful to us. Because of the system we have, it's an auger. So what happens is if you put a cooler down in, it can get stuck and the auger can just keep going like this. So if you snap the cooler in half and you put it in, the auger can grab onto it better. So that's kind of a small detail. For instance, those are the kind of helpful hints and tips that we give people who are about to start collecting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so we have a question about, are there any efforts up in the north? Cheryl's in Bethlehem and they abut Littleton.
I do not have any contacts up there yet, showing any interest. But I also can tell you, like, I really have been, promoting it here across Central, and really I go wherever I'm asked for presentations. No one in Northern New Hampshire has asked for any presentation yet. I certainly have no issues with going up there if someone wants to hear about it. As I mentioned, because I'm getting such a heavy volume from the western side of the state, I'm really trying to find a town who's willing to step up. So that's where some of my energy has been going. But I don't have a community up there. I do know that, is it Littleton? There's a community up there that's very progressive and does a lot. I want to say, I don't know if it's Littleton. So any of those communities up there would be great, to kind of talk to. So if you're someone up in that area and you want to start the conversation and invite me to some meeting, I'm happy to do that.
So a couple towns, Dover and Newmarket, want to know how they can participate.
So the easiest way, so again, we could look at the map to see where they are, first of all. And right now, I am the only place you can drop off, like as of today, tomorrow, and the next day, right? Until Exeter comes online. And then you'd have to decide if Exeter's closer, you would go there. But if you want to get started right off, what you need to do is you're finding your group that's going to run the event. Is it going to be your conservation commission? Is it going to be, who is it? Like, who are the people that are going to start? And I would encourage you to come to a foam recycling monthly meeting and just say, we want to get started. What are some of the first steps? We do have some of that information on the Recycle Right website. I believe we have some information on what's involved, and we have communities that have put together information on running a collection event. So I guess based on the three methods I talked about, You just need to decide what is a good fit for your community. Do you want to hold a collection event? Do you want to get some bins, and let people just drop off and then, monitor those? Or do you want to, collect at your transfer station? A lot of communities start with a collection event. That seems to be, I say a lot, but yet other communities who are able to jump online are doing the bags right at the transfer station. That is hands down the best way to get involved. If you can get your public works, your transfer station on board, that's the best way, and you're going to get the most participation from your residents if you do that. Because depending on what your community is, are you a curbside pickup? Do you have a transfer station that you can drop off? It's dependent on what your community is. We do not have curbside pickup here. You might in Dover. So then, like I said, what are the options for drop off of recyclable materials? If you have a transfer station, that's a spot where you can collect. Let's say your public works is like, look, we don't have staff, we can't do it. What I would encourage you to do is say, can we hold a collection at the transfer station once a month or once a week, whatever amount you want to do. And you start that way. That's what Meredith is doing. They're holding collections right at the transfer station because everyone's already coming, but the transfer station doesn't feel like they have enough staff. So the Rotary Club is stepping up and they stand there and they collect foam. And they publicize that they're having these foam collections, like I said, once a month or once every other month. So, really you just got to think about what's going to work for your town. And again, happy to have those conversations. Or if you've got a couple people that you want to bring to the table and chat at a foam recycling meeting, something like that. But I can't tell you, this is the way you get started. There's multiple ways and you want to pick what works best for you, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's interesting to hear that, there's a couple, variations in how involved or, how much time you need to invest in this to get started. And there is a question about those non-recyclable foams, like the foam insulation and some of the other materials, packing materials. Are there any initiatives or potential for those to be recycled in a similar manner? Do you know the status of those other non-recyclable foams?
I do not. I just know my system cannot take them because what happens is they're clearly like a different consistency. And when you put the wrong materials in, what happens to my system is it liquefies. And then it turns to like gum all over my auger and it creates a really bad problem. So we can't take it in the system we have. There might be systems out there, like the system I have is called a hot melt system. There are also cold press systems. I don't know if those take that kind of foam. This is the densifier we got, which does not take that material. So, those items have to be thrown in the trash. And what I would say is they already are being thrown in the trash in addition to everything that we are taking out. So, we're at least taking out, like if you think of all the foam,
Right.
I don't know what percentage, we've got to be taking out at least 80% of all foam. I wouldn't even say 20% is that contaminated squishy stuff. Because truthfully, the contaminated squishy stuff is going to compact in, where the stuff we're pulling out is the stuff that doesn't compact. So I think volume wise, which, right, it's not about weight, it's about volume. It's the volume in the trailer, it's the volume in the landfill. I think we're hitting, it's at least 90% of the volume.
They're definitely a bulky,
Yeah.
bulky material. There's a question. Do you know when Exeter will be up and running?
I don't yet. She joins our meetings every so often and gives us an update. She had thought fall, but what I would tell you is this, because I was there, I was in her shoes. So when they get online, their first step is educating their own community and their own staffing on how to run it, how to collect from, you know what I mean? And then my guess is they are going to not publicize, but if you reach out to them and say, hey, we're interested in collecting, you know what I mean? I don't know that they're going to like say, hey, Exeter's open, we're collecting. That probably wouldn't happen until next year for them. because they just got to wrap their heads around everything and what they're doing and get into a good cycle. But I certainly could give contact information for Exeter. You know, the woman running the program over there, her name is Kristen Murphy. And she's the one kind of getting that system up and running. So I would say that's the person you should reach out to if you're interested in dropping off to them and just say, hey, we heard about the program from Megan, heard you're coming online. Could you kind of keep us notified of when you would start collecting foam from other communities? Because that is absolutely their intent, is to be their intent is to be a regional collection, not just for Exeter. So they were gonna you know, function in the same way that we do, which is awesome. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, no, it'll be nice to have two systems up and running.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then we'll just need to work, you know, work our
Yes,
way
yes.
west, I guess. Yeah. West and north.
Yes. I mean, change doesn't happen fast. We know that, right? Like
Right.
I mean, I learned about it in, let's say, January. I had the system here in July or August. Like that was shocking. And the reason I had that is because the guy was willing to give it to me as a pilot. I didn't even need to have any funding ready. So that's why I was able to get mine up and running. And then it took me a few months to get the first grant. And then it took me over a year to get the second grant. You know, it's a
Okay.
process. Now, Exeter, just so you know, they got the first grant, that was easy, but they decided to budget through their municipal budget system for the remaining money that they needed, and they got it. So they had
And
an
then, as you
overwhelming
mentioned too,
support.
there is a cost savings as well as,
Yes,
you know, you are making an income as well
yeah,
by selling those. So you know,
mhm, yeah,
would recoup a lot of those costs
absolutely. And
eventually.
if you can, you know, if the system costs 90 grand and you can get a $50,000 grant and the cost to you is 40,000, you know, and you, let's say you get up to a point where you're making, even if you use early numbers and say, we're going to save 5,000 in hauling and we're going to make 5,000. Okay. It's going to take you 4 years. Not even though, because your program's going to grow so fast.
Yeah.
It'll take you probably 3 years to pay off that
To pay
40,000.
it back. And
Yeah.
then everything you're making
And
is
everything is profit
addi-
after that
right.
for you know.
And it's really fascinating to see. It just comes in one unit. It looks like just a
Yeah.
container, you
Yeah.
know, shipping container. They just
And you don't have to buy it that way as well. So if you're a community that has a really big building, you can actually buy just that tan densifier and you can install that in your building. We didn't have enough room in our building. So we will, and because it was being run as a pilot, we chose to make it a standalone unit just in case something fell through and we couldn't, you know what I mean? So, but I like it that way. It works for us, you know?
yeah, it's pretty cool. So if anybody else would like to unmute and ask a question, we're through. It looks like we're at the bottom of our questions in the chat. So feel free, if I didn't cover your question, go ahead and unmute and just go ahead and ask Megan directly. If anybody's out there.
Well,
I think-
yes. So thank you very much. I'm brand new to the Conservation Commission in Newmarket. And so I wasn't clear whether I should try to track down Christy Murphy at the town of Exeter or DPW. Typically, is it more specific as in a
So
department
she's
of
at the
DPW?
town of Exeter. I'm not sure what her exact title is.
Yeah, I was just curious. Thank
But
you.
her email is just kmurphy@exeternh.gov.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can include her email as well,
Yeah.
the follow-up.
Oh, that would be great since
Make
we're
sure
a
we have
neighboring town. It's
Right.
You know, one concern I want to mention that like you may hear from your public works departments is one concern I hear is people say, well, we don't have enough staffing. And what I would say is this, you are getting this material already from your community. You're getting it. You're just getting it as trash.
Right.
So my argument is you're reallocating the time of your staff, and instead of putting it into a trash trailer, compacting and shipping out more trash trailers, you're instead recycling it. It's no different than every other recycling commodity you have, cardboard, tin, all the other ones. I have not hired any new staff for this. It is something we do typically once a week, okay? And when we got started, yeah, we did it for just 2 hours. Then it was 4 hours. Now, supporting, as I said, nearly 50 towns, yeah, I'm running it 8 hours a day or more. I mean, but the whole goal is to find that balance And I will be honest and tell you, I think I'm tipped and I'm higher. I'm taking more than I really want to for the long sustainable run. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the vision is that there needs to be more hubs and then it would balance out to everyone and it would be very manageable. And we are still managing it. It's just we have weeks that are difficult, you know. Like the 80 bags I just got, okay? I had, because I knew that would be such a huge load on my staff, I sent a highway guy over and I called in a solid waste guy on his day off, and that was the intent. Process all day on Monday, no interruptions from your regular solid waste operations, and they cranked the whole thing out. They cranked it all out. And so they got it done, so now their week's not going to be interrupted. I typically do not do that, but with an event as big as theirs, I don't want to interrupt the rest of my whole week because of that.
Right.
So we chose to do that. So
Well, and it will be interesting to see if there's a big decrease or a plateau for you when Exeter comes on board, because
yeah, I mean, looking at my map, my communities are all central, western, southern. I don't have a lot of eastern communities. So yes, there'll be a few less.
okay,
But what I think is more going to happen is that the communities involved in the program are going to expand, which is great. That's the goal, right? So
right,
instead of, I have, let's say 27, and again, not counting the communities that go to Upper Valley, let's say I have 27 dropping off to me. I'll drop down to 20, 24, all right, or
right,
22. They are going to grow from 2 to 7 to 15. They're going to grow just like I did, because once communities find out that they have that near them, they're going to want to get involved. So, I mean, to me, what's exciting is clearly there's an interest, there's a need, there's a want. People are excited about it. People drive really far and make the effort to go to these collection events. Like, I think if a community is aware that they can recycle this, they will do it. But it's just, change is hard and people get scared. What's it gonna take for time? Which is why I'm happy to talk to those people, because it's my staff doing it and we're living it, and it's doable. It's totally doable.
right.
And it's got
Well,
such a positive impact. Like, I just feel like, why wouldn't you do this,
right, right. I mean, as you said, you're getting that foam anyway.
Yeah.
So you have to deal with it one way or another. And
Yep.
that's a really great point. And you might as well recycle it if you can. So
Yep.
So I want to thank you so much for your time, Megan. It was great to learn more about this program and how you got started and how to inspire other groups to get going on this. And again, we will include your email contact for anybody who has questions. So hopefully you won't be inundated with tons of
No, no
questions.
problem.
But we'll try to connect everybody to those resources that can help them get started. And I want to thank our participants today. Thank you all for joining us and for the work that you do in your conservation commissions or in your community. Again, you're welcome to share this recording with other people on your commission, or even we had a question of can we share this with non-commission members? And yes, absolutely, you're welcome to share this if you have a sustainability group that you're working with, or solid waste group or whatever. You're welcome to share this, and we will probably eventually put it on our YouTube channel, but for now it'll just be a direct link to the recording.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all. Have a great afternoon, and
Thank you both.
we'll be in touch. Oh, wait. Oh, is Kathleen, you're waving goodbye. I thought maybe you're waving for a question.
Well,
Okay.
I just had a very quick question, but so
Sure.
is there also going to be a link just to the PowerPoint in case people don't want to see the whole recording?
Yeah, absolutely. I can make that, you know what I can do? I believe I can make it a
Can you
public
make it
link.
into a handout?
I could do anything. I can make it a
That would be,
handout.
I mean, that would be excellent.
The handouts are a little easier, and then I can just have it as an attachment to
Okay.
Okay,
the
that would be
the reminder.
excellent. I have my
Sure.
meeting tomorrow night. I'd love to just be able to give people something.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And I can also make it, I think I can do a public view link, which I don't know if that's helpful, to be able to see.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know if you click that, if that'll open the presentation, but I'll download it as a PDF for you, Barbara, and I'll send that right off to you.
Yeah, and that, if you could do it like two slides per page,
Sure.
then it's a
yeah.
small enough document that I can just send it as an attachment.
Yeah, let me, I think you can export off of Canva in different ways, so I will figure that out.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you.
All right.
One more
Thank you
thing.
so much. Have a good afternoon, everybody.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.